Hello and welcome to another knitting pod. I am Lena and I am so glad that you are here today. Today we are going to talk about reclaiming your knitting joy, your knitting mojo, your knitting sparkle, whatever you want to call it. If you are a knitter that makes a lot, that invests a lot of your time and love and energy and mental space with knitting, inevitably, there is going to be a moment in time where you feel a little lost, a little joyless in your making, and it can be really disorienting, honestly. It can feel like the thing that you just rely upon to lift you up, to comfort you, when that's not there, it can really just throw you off and throw you into a funk. And honestly, I have found myself in that space a little bit lately. I think it's been created by a couple of things. I think I was, kind of over some of the projects that I was almost completing. So, which is kind of great when you're already at the end and you feel ready to move on. You just kind of have to plug through the ending. So I've done that. And then in another project I was working on, when I finally got around to putting it on and trying it on, I was a little bit disappointed. So that in my knitting life. And then I also recently, if you've been following along, got a spinning wheel and fell so head over heels in love with spinning that when I found my knitting mojo waning, I almost was questioning if I loved spinning more. And I think that's kind of silly because anytime we're learning a new skill and getting better at it, I think it's easy to just be so enamored with that because, that's just a whole new falling in love process. So it is unfair for me to compare it to knitting. All that being said, I was truly in search of finding that sparkly feeling with my knitting again. So I decided one way to do that is to share it with you guys. And so I decided to really dive into lots of stuff on Ravelry and kind of uncover some things that were starting to spark that joy in me again. And I thought I would share them here with you today. So if you are up for that, hang around for the next 30, 40 minutes and let's chat about the projects that are really making me feel awakened again in my love for knitting. One thing that I think I turn to a lot of times when I need to reconnect with my knitting is smaller projects. And I've talked about this before. I think when you have a quicker turnaround and you're able to harness the joy of the beginning and the excitement of the ending, sometimes that long, murky middle where things are kind of dragging on and you're having to force yourself to return to your project, that feeling happens to all of us. But smaller projects, to me, minimize that. So often in the cooler months, my go-to project is a hat, like a beanie, whether really simple or more complicated. I just find that it's a really fun way to try a new technique or a new color palette. But when it's turning warmer here, it's May 1st, if you can believe it, where we are, it is getting warmer. So I can't turn to my go-to beanie projects. So I found two accessory projects that are just making me so excited. And the first one is the Granny's Addict Socks by James N. Watts. And if you've been with me for a while, you know I'm not a huge sock knitter, but I always have this resurgence of wanting to be a sock knitter. I'm not someone, I don't know. I've only made one pair of socks. It was a beautiful pair of socks by Stephen West, the Painting Brick socks, and I loved the entire process from beginning to end. I didn't have, second sock syndrome or I didn't want to cast it on. The problem was just that my socks didn't fit exactly as I'd wanted them to, even though I made them the smallest size. I have really big feet, but very skinny feet, so they just didn't fit great. And I'm just hesitant to like go down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out how, like what recipe, if you will solve that problem for me. But when I see socks like this, I am totally into it and ready to jump on the sock bandwagon. The thing I love about these is you can really make them whatever you want. So you could totally even make them just plain. However, I'm not sure why you would buy a new pattern to just knit vanilla socks when there's tons of plain sock recipes on, Ravelry and on the internet at large out there for free. But the way he's zhuzhed these socks up is just absolutely fantastic. So there's two options. There's like a fingering weight picot lace cuff, I guess that's the word I'm looking for, that is so cute. It just has this kind of funky throwback look that I love. It just reminds me of like socks from when you were really little, the fold over with the little lace. That's what they remind me of, and they're so cute. And then the other sock cuff that he has in this pattern is a fluffy double layered mohair. And this one is really what just got me so excited. Who among us doesn't have mohair leftovers in your stash? And I think this would be just such a fun way to play with accessorizing your socks and making them a little bit funky and cool. I think it would be great gift knitting if you're not so inclined to wear crazy socks. Maybe there's somebody in your life, like your child or a grandchild or anybody would be delighted to get handmade socks that were this special. And I remember recently seeing an article in the New York Times that was talking about how socks are having this huge moment, this huge resurgence. In fact, like not just with sandals or sneakers, which is very kind of normal, but with heels and with different types of shoes like boots and stuff. And they had tons of places you could buy funky, eclectic looking socks, but we are the lucky few that can make our own. So if you're a sock person, go forth and make some funky socks. These are really high on my list of might make this summer because I love cozy knits. Socks are cozy knits. And in the summer, I live in Birkenstocks and I would love another pair of fun socks to put with them. So Granny's Addict socks are number one on my list right now. Go to the Ravelry project page and look at the samples. They're just so much fun. They look like a blast to make. The second project, that's another accessory that I have had on my mind for a couple months now, is the Big Bow Bonnet by Park Williams. That is her name, yes. Her Ravelry handle is Park and Knit. I think she's friends with James N. Watts and Jessie May and all that cool kid group of knitters. But her point of view is similar to Jessie May, very modern and clean lines and nothing too embellished. And I really like her patterns. I have made a couple of things by her, but this one is just so freaking cute. It just gives me Thelma and Louise vibes all the way. And when it came out, I loved it. I just wanted to make it immediately. But then I thought, where the heck am I going to wear this? Like, how is this going to work into my normal, very, very boring life? And then when my daughter and I were in Portland, if you watched the episode where I talked about my trip to Portland, which was a trip to watch my son play basketball in a tournament there, but really it was just a yarn shopping trip in disguise. At Ritual Dyes, which was my favorite shop ever, the adorable girl, one of the girls that was working there, had this bonnet on. And she was just dressed very chill in like a t-shirt and jeans, but she had this bonnet tied around her neck and just loosely draped around her shoulders like a hood. It just added this fun, adorable touch to her outfit that was so unique. And what I love about adding hand knit accessories to your wardrobe is that you really just end up looking like yourself and like you're expressing yourself in a really fun way. And I just, ever since that, I've wanted to make this project, and it's high on my list still. She had made it in a more neutral color. In the sample, Park is wearing it in Electric Orchid by Wandering Flock in their mohair, and it is so, so beautiful. You know, if you know me, if you've watched my podcast, that Electric Orchid color just makes my heart sing. So when you're losing your knitting mojo, another trick is to really go get the colors that make you just electrified, whether that is rainbow or orchid, or maybe it's brown or olive green, or maybe charcoal gray. Jessica, I'm looking at you. You can just knit something in your favorite color, and I guarantee you, you will revitalize that little sparkle that you've lost. And maybe you haven't lost anything, but you should just make this bonnet because it's too cute. And like, I just love the idea of having a bonnet on my head. Anything to cover up a bad hair day, right? So that is, again, those are two accessories. I think accessories are quick, they're fun, and they're as close to instant gratification as we knitters can get. The next more obvious choice is kind of summery or more spring warm weather tops. And there are two that, actually I think three, right? Three that are on my radar. And I apologize, my dog is snoring, but I just walked her and she's tired, so she's snoring. I hope the sound isn't too annoying. I don't have the heart to kick her out because she looks really cute right now. Anyway, back to my summery tops that I have my eye on. This first one is again by Park Williams. It is called the Bold Fold Top, and I love this because three reasons. I love a boxy top. I just think it's really flattering. It's really easy to wear. I love to eat. I don't want to ever worry about like, will this top make me feel a little too sucked and tucked when I'm like eating, or just I've eaten too much and I just don't want to feel like I'm wrapped in sausage casing. I love a boxy top, and this one is just so beautiful, and you could really make it whatever you want. You can make it in a classic color that would go with everything, or you can make it in two colors. Like you can make it very graphic and have one half in a bright bold color and the other half in a neutral. You could just play with your stash. The other thing I love, I don't know what number we are on, 2 or 3, but one thing I really love is a summery weight top. And it seems like a mismatch, but I love a summery top in a heavier weight yarn. I think it's because it knits up fast, and it's just fun to watch it come together really quickly. And I just feel like we all have lots of stash, and when you have a heavier weight yarn required for a project, not only can you use worsted weight yarn straight up, but you can hold yarn double. You could hold fingering weight double and marlet. You could add in a lace weight mohair and just be creative and let it just be a really fun project that you can wear in the summer in a really simple way with shorts or jeans or whatever your go-to uniform is. I also saw some people layering this project over more tight-fitting shirts, and I just always think that it is so cute when people do that. I can never pull that off. I'm not a very creative dresser. I like to be comfortable, and I don't like to think about what I'm wearing very much. So I'm kind of a grab and go person, but when I see people creatively styling their hand knits, it makes me so happy and kind of envious because that's not me. The other top that I think it's completely different but also so beautiful is the Clover Tea Solo. I don't know exactly how to pronounce this name, but I'm going to guess that it's Lene Holmes Samson. Don't know, but I will leave the link. Beautiful, beautiful, classic summer top. This reminds me of, I don't know why this reminds me of this. It's very specific. Did you guys see the movie? What was that movie called? Yaya Sisterhood. It was a book and like a series of books, and then they made a movie out of it, and Ashley Judd played the mother it was like the 50s. And she was so beautiful and just this beautiful woman, and she would wear these lovely summer tops and take her kids to the beach. And this top reminds me of Ashley Judd in that movie, just in a really neutral color, just really classic. I just don't think anyone would look bad in this. And again, it doesn't look like it, but it is made in a worsted weight yarn. So it would go by quick. Those open eyelets that create that look on the top would keep it interesting and fun, but it would just whiz by, and it would be a piece you could wear all summer. So if you're more on the classic side, I think this would be such a fun top to knit. And go check her out. She wasn't really on my radar, but this designer has a lot of beautiful pieces in her library. Some really beautiful, what is it called? Like lace patterns that are very beautiful, but she has kind of translated into heavier sweaters for the winter and lighter tops for the summer. All those I love, because if you love that pattern, there's one specifically, I believe it's called the Dahlia. It's such a pretty lace pattern, and if you love it, then you can, knit it in for whatever you want in your wardrobe. If you want a cardigan, you can knit the cardigan version. I really like that, and go check it out. That was a little bonus top for you. Another one that I fell in love with, and I'm very, very rarely on Instagram, but sometimes something will just be recommended for me and just pop off the screen, and I fall in love. And this was that. This is another top. It is different in that it is a vest. It's like a V-neck with buttons, and I think it would be so easy to style either in the summer or the winter. But this one's called the Olympi. I don't know how to pronounce that word either. Olympi. I don't know. Olympe sweater vest by Le Poule. I think she is a French knitwear designer, and she has so many funky, cool designs that I was so happy my Instagram algorithm recommended her to me. She's just got some really interesting pieces. And this one just drew my eye because you know how much I love color. And working with color instantly brings me joy. And I think one of the reasons I was finding myself in a knitting funk is that I was knitting one thing in like this extremely soft gray, and then another thing in really muted colors. And I think I was just starting to like wilt, like slowly, like feeling the energy of not working with bright colors kind of pulled out of me. And so for me personally, turning to bright colors just lifts my spirits instantly. And I think this would be such a fun way to use the yarn you have, which is something I know every knitter out there starts the year saying, I'm gonna knit for my stash, I'm gonna make more scrappy projects. And I'm one of them. That's like literally it was one of my goals this year. But we always end up buying yarn. But around May, I think it's a nice time to circle back and say, like, can I sneak in a scrappy project here? That it's not to check it off the list, it's to inject a little brightness and fun into my knitting. And I think having a basket of leftovers and just pulling out colors and seeing how they interplay, I mean, you're just gonna have a blast with a project like this. I was thinking about doing this she's done this with a lot of different weights of yarn held together. And I've shared with you, I have a ton of mercerized cotton in fingering weight in all sorts of colors. And I thought it'd be really fun to marl them together into a heavier weight and use them for this project, because I just think it'd be beautiful. I'd love to mix, more neutral colors with brighter colors and just play with color, just interplay between neutrals and brights. That's something I love, and this project just looks so fun, and I think it would be really fun to wear also. Another great gift for like a teenage girl. My tastes run to like 10-year-old girls, so either wear it yourself, or if you're looking to knit somebody in your life a gift, I think this would be a really fun one. And you guys know when I knit gifts, I love to use yarn I already have. It just feels like a win-win for me. So this sweater vest is high on my list also. Just so much fun. I also think using pastels and neutrals would be really pretty and make it like a softer look. Or you could just knit it in one color and use like really cool buttons that you've been saving. There's endless ways to make this a fun one. So those were my tops, my more summery tops. But if you happen to love knitting cardigans and other pieces like that, or maybe it is not summer where you live, one of the pieces I absolutely fell in love with, and this is a free pattern by Hedgehog Fibers. I love Hedgehog Fibers, and the designer and owner of that company is Beata, Jezek, and she always puts up gorgeous free patterns on their website and on Ravelry so that you can play with their beautiful yarns or whatever yarn you have. But this is the Duster Bunny, and I love this pattern. I saw a mom at school the other day wearing a really long duster style cardigan in a really simple, camel color. And it was so beautiful on her. And it just made me realize like, oh, that's such a cute look. I would totally wear that. And then I remembered this pattern, and I had fallen in love with it when I saw it originally. It's just simple. It's in stockinette. And if you are one of those people that wants, a summer project that's easy for vacations and on the go, I think this would be so pretty. It's kind of reminds me of why people love the half and half triangles wrap. It's kind of, the scale is epic and you just get to knit and knit. However, I will say there's gonna be a lot of purling in this project because you're going back and forth. But I think it would be worth it to have such a timeless classic piece. And she's used a light fingering weight yarn in, a beautiful speckled hand-dyed yarn. And I think that would make this so much fun. To me, when I'm using a beautiful speckled yarn, I never get bored, even if it's the same colorway through the whole project. They're just so fun. I love watching the speckles knit up and the different color shifts. Oh, you guys know Hedgehog Fibers is like, it was my number one. It's how I got into knitting, was their colorways. And no matter how many other little hand-dyed companies pop up or become big, Hedgehog Fibers will always have a special place in my heart. Sorry, dry throat, too much talking. Yeah, so that is a gorgeous pattern, the Duster Bunny. I also, speaking of linen quilt, think that would make a fantastic yarn for this project because, as I've said 8 trillion times, it is beautifully priced. Their color range is spectacular, and the skeins themselves are so generous. And obviously, this duster would require a lot of yarn that you could do this project and not have to break the bank in buying really expensive skeins of yarn. And if you do it in a more classic color, to me, it's just way more wearable. It might not be as fun to knit, but it's definitely a classic piece that you can wear forever. The final, excuse me, the final sweater that I am going to talk about, I love. When I saw this sweater, it just made me giddy with excitement. It is the Mad Stripes sweater by Le Pull again. This sweater, I am a sucker for a mohair sweater, and the stripes, the way the stripes don't match up, the like batwing sleeve, the way she styled it as a summer top, it's just, it is so, so, so beautiful. I want to make this. Unfortunately, I don't have an enormous stash of mohair. It's growing. I have more than I did a couple years ago, but I would have to go out and grab a couple skeins, and I might, but not now. I might do this in the fall. But it is a gorgeous sweater. I love it. I love it so much. I think you could even insert stripes of fingering weight and use up your stash that way a little more, and it would have so much more visual interest, not for the whole thing to be mohair. I just love this one. I think you could wear it in the winter because mohair is warm. You could wear it in the summer styled with some denim shorts or a skirt. It just would be so cute. And the way she has it here over like a really classic black bathing suit is just so pretty. Oh my gosh. I feel so lucky and excited when I do these kind of big dives into Ravelry where I just kind of follow my curiosity and where it will take me. I love seeing the amount of talent out there in designers across the world, you know, like everybody's style and perspective is so different, and I love it all. I love the classic European looks. I love these incredible colorful looks. I love it all. I'm so excited that there's just so much out there. That's why I think you can be a knitter for your entire life and never get bored, because there's just so much out there to knit. So those are the projects that I think would pull anybody out of a knitting funk or a knitting slump. And like I said, maybe you're not in a knitting slump, but it's always fun to see new patterns that you might not have known are out there. And ironically, this morning, I found my way out of my knitting funk. You know, lately, I think I've just been feeling a constant sense of rush in my life, and I don't like it. I feel like I never have enough time. I feel time poor. I feel like I wake up in the morning and I have like a hair on fire attitude where I just am trying to get everything I need to get done. And I'm always trying to get to the point where I feel like I'll have some time where I can just be by myself and knit and fill my own cup, because I am the kind of person, I fill my own cup by being by myself. I love the people I love, but I really need to be alone in order to recharge. And so it's like this vicious cycle where I'm constantly overwhelmed by everything I have to do for everybody. And then that rush is in service of trying to get back to myself to fill my own needs and my own emotional stores, so that then I can turn around and go empty them again for everybody else. And the thing that fills me up is knitting. And when I'm in a knitting funk, it sucks because I'm not able to fill up in the same way. I don't feel recharged through anything else. And even though I'm loving spinning, I just felt this sad feeling that I didn't have my knitting to keep me warm, emotionally speaking. So this morning, I just realized like I need to change this mental habit, because it's truly just a rut that I've gotten into, whether it's just all my life experience of a lot of schooling and a lot of you just churn and burn and you just keep going. I realized like I don't want to have that energy in my day-to-day life. I want to feel abundant in time. And so I just decided today, my husband is traveling, the kids are at school, and today was one day, I was giving myself the freedom to just fill my own bucket, just do whatever I wanted to do. And I was reading my book that I love, the Book of Awakening. I always turn to it when I need a little inspiration, a little grounding, a little lifting up of my spirit. And it just made me realize that no matter how much there isn't to do in my life, that it's my responsibility to check my frame of mind. And I just realized there's this phrase that I'm starting to use to remind myself is all the time in the world. I have all the time in the world. So whether it's like I have to do this or go here or run this errand or cook this for this person or take this person to this place, I have all the time in the world. And just that reminder that I don't need to rush. I can just be present, that this is my life. Like whatever I'm doing, this is what I'm doing right now. And where I wish I were or what I wish I were doing has nothing to do with this moment. So I'm just really, really reaching for being present and trying to find the joy in being present in that moment. Even if it's not exactly where I'd wish to be, it is where I am, and I need to find the joy in where I am. So maybe, I don't know if you've ever felt these things. I think if you are a caretaker or you have a really high stress job or whatever you do with your time, I just feel like we all need to be a little more present. And maybe that's what we love about knitting, is that it brings us down into what we're doing, and we love seeing the stitches, come to life in our fingers. It's the slowest thing in the world, right? And we love it. And so I feel like there's part of us that's just craving slowing down. And even if our lives won't slow down, we can bring a slower attitude to them. And it was from that space this morning that I felt calmed. I didn't feel like I needed to cast something new on. I needed to hurry up and find my joy. It was in that moment that I realized, when I felt slower and calmer, that I really felt like returning to this project that I've had on my needles for a while. And of course, you know who it's gonna be. It's Stephen West. I started this shawl a while ago, and then it just got sidetracked because I had other things come up. And I was in a section, I had just finished this. I'll just show you. It's the Bubbles and Brio Shawl. You guys have seen it before. I had finished the first section is brioche, then you move into these beautiful bubbles, then there's a striped garter section, and then another bubble section. And I had finished the bubble section, and I had decided I needed to knit some other stuff, so I put it away. I knew I'd come back to it eventually when I really felt like it. And this morning I realized I feel like working with bright colors. I feel like doing brioche. So I picked it up, and the minute I started doing that setup row for the brioche, I felt restored in my love for knitting. And it was just such, it's like how I felt. It was just like a huge relief. And I just felt reconnected to Stephen West. And if you've been with me for any amount of time, you know how much I love him. And I feel like he's my reliable inspiration, and that whenever I kind of get too far afoot, he'll always bring me back and remind me what I love about knitting. He was the reason I started knitting. He was my first pattern. He's just this he's truly not to be too on the nose, but this rainbow in my knitting life. And I just felt so grateful to be able to come back to this pattern, that as much as all these patterns inspired me, I didn't need to jump into a new cast on to find my knitting mojo. I just needed to go back to my knitting roots and immerse myself in a work in progress. And it's just, I love it. It's so much fun. If you've never done brioche, there's something very satisfying about watching brioche come to life, because it is a three-dimensional fabric that is unique in every way. I just cannot tell you how much I love brioche. And so returning to brioche, I also think you have to be in the mood for brioche because it is double, you're knitting each row twice, and that is a lot of work, and not for nothing, right? I don't like to do big brioche pieces, but I love brioche in small doses. And after all this beautiful rainbow gorgeousness, black and white brioche is sounding fabulous. So I've just finished that shawl in a fingering weight. I'm a fingering weight, but a singles. And this is all done mostly in 4-ply. And after working with a single ply, I've realized how much I love working in a traditional 4-ply fingering weight yarn. It just, the amount of body it has, and it just feels so natural in my fingers. Whereas the single, it's almost like such a wisp of a fiber that you're kind of constantly having to make sure it's not getting away from you and you're dropping something where you don't need to, especially in lace. So all around, this was a joy. So even though I just gave you like 7 things to cast on, maybe what you really need is to pick something up, and no pressure. It doesn't mean you have to go knock it out and finish it, but you cast that thing on for a reason, and maybe there's some joy to be found in the midst of that project. So okay, guys, that is all I have for you today for this week. A little life update. Again, it's May 1st. And this was a really good time of year for me to remember that I needed to slow down, and that hurried state of mind is truly a choice, and I don't have to engage in it because it is a chaotic month from now until Memorial Day, which is the end of May for us here in the States. It's just, I feel like it's nonstop. The end of school when you have school-age kids is always crazy, but my son has 2 travel tournaments in May, 1 backpacking trip for school, and then my family is going back to Dallas for my nephew's high school graduation at the end of May. So it's just bonkers. And on top of that, my husband is traveling internationally, and my daughter's going on a school camping trip next week. It's just so many moving parts, and I feel like I am the center and everything is like swirling around me, and I have to kind of keep everything going in the right direction. And I love it. I love this phase of life. I love being this hub for all the chaos, but I also kind of have to keep my own storm from spiraling out. So I am choosing to be present and calm and chill and not feel rushed because I got all the time in the world, as do you. So I hope you have a wonderful knitting weekend. It is actually Wednesday because this is just the only time I was going to have to record this week, but I will be posting it on Friday. So enjoy May wherever you are in the world. I hope you have as much beauty in your May as I do. Boulder in the spring is just possibly the most gorgeous thing in the world. Everything goes from gray, not gray. It's never really gray here for too long, but there's nothing really blooming. And then all of a sudden, everything is in bloom. And it's just the colors and the sounds are just spectacular. I've been walking and just taking in the sound of the wind in the aspen trees and the birds chirping and the beautiful flowers and trees starting to bloom. And it makes me so happy. I love winter so much, but there's nothing like spring when it's just, even the most diehard winter person, their heart is thawed in the beautiful spring here. So I'm looking forward to some colorful knitting to match the season, and I can't wait to share it with you next week. What's on my needles and what's come off my needles. I will share that with you guys next time. So for now, have a lovely weekend. I hope you are happy in your knitting life. And if you're not, don't fret. Just kind of give yourself some space and you'll get back to it in no time. I will see you next time. Bye.